lockdown in southeast Queensland.
So for the next 3 days, I just ask everyone, stay at home.
Also, Queensland's lockdown brings more chaos to the AFL and NRL, with matches called off and postponed. 210 new infections reported in Sydney and another death, with police on guard for further lockdown protests. And more medals for Australia in the pool. Kaylee McEwen takes in the 200-metre backstroke. Good afternoon, Jessica Harmson with ABC News. Millions more Australians are going into lockdown. From 4 p.m. today, southeast Queensland will be back under stay-at-home orders. The state government's going hard and fast as it rushes to contain an outbreak of the Delta variant. The lockdown will last for 3 days. For residents in 11 local government areas, there'll be only 4 reasons to leave home. It's in response to an emerging cluster. There are 7 cases in total, 6 of which were announced this morning. All have been linked to a 17-year-old high school student in Brisbane's Inner West. All of the cases are the highly infectious Delta variant, which is also responsible for Sydney's current outbreak. Queensland's Chief Health Officer says there's an enormous number of exposure sites, including the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital and the University of Queensland. All sport, recreational or professional, will be cancelled. This means several NRL, AFL and Super Netball matches won't go ahead. Reporter Jim Malo has the latest from Indooroopilly High School in Brisbane's Inner West.
Yeah, absolutely, Jess. So what we're seeing here is what is being touted as one of the strictest lockdowns that Brisbane has had. Now, one of the reasons for that is this introduction of the 10-kilometre radius that you're not allowed to leave home. You're not allowed to leave from your home. Now, that is fairly significant change, because you can't go any further if you want to get food or to exercise or anything like that. Now, if you do live in one of those areas in southeast Queensland, and there are plenty where there isn't a shop more than less than 10 kilometres from your house, you can go if it's the closest one, but you need to go straight home after you've done that. Now, another thing that they've introduced this time is that there will be no visitors allowed in houses whatsoever. So previously you could have 2 per day, but now that has been completely nixed. So this is due to the state government's very their hard and fast lockdown strategy, as you might have heard earlier on. So Deputy Premier Stephen Miles had a little bit more to say about why they were taking this action earlier.
Our message to people in the southeast is we have been here before, but this time it's different. We cannot afford to be complacent just because we have done so well so far. We all have to comply with these restrictions. All of the governments of Australia now recognise that when dealing with the Delta strain, the only way is to go hard and go early. That is what we have been advised to do. That is what the Premier has instructed that we do. It is what we are doing from today.
Jim, what do we know about these 7 cases?
Yeah, so we do know a fair bit about the 7 cases. So that's 7 cases in total in this Indooroopilly State High School cluster linked to the 17-year-old girl. We got 6 new local cases today. 4 of those are that girl's 4 family members, and another one of them is a teacher at the Ironside State School. Now, one of the younger members of the family goes to the Ironside State School, and that's believed to be how that teacher contracted the virus. Now, because of that, there has been a 14-day shutdown of the Ironside State School. Everyone there who are, students and teachers, they're required to get tested and to isolate for 14 days, just like what was ordered for the Indooroopilly State High School late yesterday afternoon. So there is one more case in there, and that is a med student who tutors the 17-year-old girl. This is thought to be the way that the case has got to this girl and then has spread further. Dr. Jeanette Young, our Chief Health Officer, said earlier today that she thinks that this case could be linked to 2 people who came from Singapore and came on the same flight and went into hotel quarantine. They both fell ill. One was taken to the Gold Coast University Hospital and the other was taken to the Sunshine Sunshine Coast University Hospital. So there is no clear link to the med student to those cases yet, but that is still under investigation. Now, going back to this med student as well, there is slight concern, or fair concern, given she has been to several hospitals as a med student. You know, she's going to the Royal Brisbane Hospital and also the Princess Alexandra Hospital. There's significant concern there that there will be an enormous amount of exposure sites associated with her. Now, Dr. Jeanette Young spoke a little bit earlier about the uncertainty that we're sort of dealing with here in southeast Queensland earlier today. Take a listen.
So at the moment, I don't know where this virus is in the southeast Queensland. It could be anywhere. It could be in the Sunshine Coast because we had one of those original cases up there and they live in Buderim. It could be down in the Gold Coast because we had one of those original cases down there when they were being managed. So I don't know today where this virus is in the southeast of Queensland, but wherever it is, I don't want it to go further.
So, Jim, obviously authorities are going to want to see a testing blitz.
Absolutely. As you just heard there, Dr. Jeanette Young and the rest of us, I guess, have no idea where the virus is. So the testing is going to be absolutely vital to making sure that it doesn't spread further. So as you can see behind me, there's a line of cars. We've been here all morning and it has been very busy. Lots of people are coming through here to get tested. And obviously we're going to want to see that all around southeast Queensland. So the state government is asking that anyone who has any symptoms whatsoever, or if you've been to one of the exposure sites, of which there should be absolutely loads, you should go and get tested immediately and make sure you follow all the directions you're given by the state government when you make contact with them. So there will be some extra testing capacity added if necessary. This one here at the Indooroopilly State High School is only temporary. It's only supposed to be here until Monday. But the Health Minister at Darth had this to say earlier about adding extra capacity if it's needed.
We will be looking at our testing clinics. We will be monitoring demand. We will be setting up extra clinics. So please check the website to see where the closest testing clinic is to you. We will also work with private pathologists to ensure as many of them across the 11 LGAs can open up over the weekend as well. And of course, we will be asking the Commonwealth to have their testing clinics open without needing a referral so people can walk in.
So that's it. We've got 3 days of uncertainty, lots of testing and lots of people probably just hoping that this will mirror some of those earlier lockdowns and be just 3 days. But dealing with the infectious Delta variant, we don't really know what is going to happen. So the results of those tests over this weekend are going to be absolutely crucial to making sure that no one else gets the virus and we all get out of lockdown safely on Tuesday.
210 new locally acquired cases have been reported in Sydney today, and a man in his 60s has died in his home, the 14th death from the current Delta outbreak. Today, a huge police operation is underway in the CBD as authorities try to stop a repeat of last weekend's protest. Let's go to our reporter now, Rani Heyman in Sydney. Rani, walk us through the latest case numbers.
So at this moment in time, there's been 210 new locally acquired cases of coronavirus confirmed in the latest reporting period. Around 120 of those cases are not linked to a confirmed source or to a confirmed case or cluster rather. As you can see, we're here at Sydney Olympic Park, and this is the mass vaccination hub where many people are coming through to get vaccinated for the COVID-19 vaccine. And there are huge lines, which is a positive turnout for people here in New South Wales. But sadly today we've heard that there's been another death linked to this current outbreak, which started on June the 16th. A man in his 60s from southwestern Sydney died at his home. Now, the Health Minister for New South Wales, Brad Hazzard, has said that there are some concerns around people from that particular region not coming forward if they are feeling unwell. He says that some people are not coming forward to get tested, and he does believe that that may possibly be due to some mistrust or a lack of communication between the government and the people who live in that area. There's a huge migrant population there. There's a huge refugee population there. So he has admitted that more needs to be done in order to get the message across to people that it is important to come forward if they are feeling unwell. He has said that more work is going to be put into making sure that more translations of different languages are being utilised for people who live in different pockets of the community. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
We are seeing more families coming in with a family member who is presenting not alive but dead.
And Rani, how are people feeling more than 5 weeks now into this lockdown?
Yeah, well, as you said, it's been well over a month, and we still will be here in lockdown until roughly the end of August, if that is not extended any further. These case numbers are not positive. The New South Wales government does want them to go down, but as I mentioned before, this turnout here is what we're seeing almost daily from people who are coming out wanting to get vaccinated. Now, the main, thing of concern for authorities at this point in time is the number of people that they're seeing presenting to hospital. There's currently more than 200 people in hospital suffering with COVID-19. And at this point, there's also more than 50 people in intensive care and roughly 27 people are needing a ventilator to breathe. So those numbers there are ones that the community are mostly concerned about. No one wants to end up in hospital with COVID-19. So the authorities are encouraging people to continue coming forward to get vaccinated and to also continue going out to get tested. We've seen record numbers of testing, which has been a positive thing. They've been reaching more than 100,000 on some specific days, and today also. But we do know that the contact tracers here in New South Wales are struggling slightly to deal with the amount of cases that we're seeing. We've got more than 3,000 cases in New South Wales that are linked to this current outbreak at the moment. So the New South Wales Health Minister, Brad Hazzard, said they will be going to the Australian Defence Force to try and enlist some help, as they did last year from, he said, mentioned particularly the Navy today. He's asked them for help with contact tracing. So we also have the Australian Defence Force who will be hitting the streets from tomorrow in numbers roughly around 300 to ensure that people are complying to the public health orders. So there's a lot going on here in New South Wales, but as I said, the positive thing is we've got these huge numbers of people coming out to get vaccinated.
Rani Hayman reporting there from Sydney. More than 1,000 police officers have surrounded Sydney's CBD to stop an anti-lockdown rally from going ahead. Roadblocks are in place and officers have swarmed train stations. Fines have also dramatically increased. Reporter Mark Reddy has more from Hyde Park.
This is exactly what police want, not a protester in sight. Officers from the riot squad, officers on horseback and also general duties have this park absolutely surrounded. They're stopping people and asking them where they're going to make sure that demonstrators aren't gathering here in large numbers. Roadblocks are also in place around the city to stop people from coming in from the suburbs. Ride-sharing services and taxis aren't allowed in unless it's for a medical emergency. Anyone caught trying to attend an illegal rally today can face a fine of up to $100,000. Ride-sharing or taxi services trying to breach this rule can face fines of up to $500,000. Majority of people we spoke to walking through Hyde Park agreed with the police presence.
I think it's awesome. I feel super safe. It's great that they're making a presence within the community. It's really important.
Absolutely necessary, and I'm all for it. We are not going to defeat this virus unless people do the right thing, and unfortunately people are doing the wrong thing.
I was shocked. I was embarrassed, actually. We generally, mostly, all do the right thing. But I was shocked with 3,500. That's a lot of people.
Quite concerned that there's going to be cases that come from it. People in the comments, was it a week or two ago, were sort of saying that they were positive in the crowd. So it's not going to be a good result either way.
Well, people are also being stopped at train stations in our suburbs. We saw a large number in Parramatta today. We also see officers targeting the bus network, and really what they're trying to do is to stop anyone from coming into the city today. We know that case numbers are rising, and authorities say now is not the time to protest during a pandemic. We know that 80 people were arrested during last weekend's violent rally around Town Hall and Hyde Park, and as you can see right now, police are moving on horseback as they're looking at the edge of the park to see if large numbers are gathering. We also know that there have been 300 people facing fines from last weekend's rally, and really the message is to stay home. Police are going to be out in large numbers if planned rallies continue to be scheduled.
Victoria's recorded 2 new local COVID-19 cases, which have both been linked to known outbreaks. Dana Morse has more from Melbourne.
Well, these 2 new cases that were reported today have both been linked to the traffic controller from the Moonee Valley Race Club. The first is somebody who was visited at their apartment by the traffic controller while they were infectious, but they were moved to hotel quarantine, and as such they haven't recorded any exposure sites in the community. They're not really considered to be a risk. Everybody else who lives in that apartment building has so far returned negative tests as well. The second case is a second traffic controller from that same testing site, the Moonee Valley Race Club. Now, these 2 traffic controllers did share a carpool ride home one night after work. It's believed that might be where the second traffic controller picked up the virus, but health authorities aren't exactly 100% sure yet. Both of these traffic controllers were eligible to be vaccinated, but neither had had their first dose, I should say. The health authorities here are concerned but not alarmed about these new cases because the second traffic controller, he did have some limited exposure in the community. He visited the Woolworths in Doncaster on the 28th of July. So anybody who was there on the morning of the 28th will need to go and get tested and isolate for the full 14 days as it is a Tier 1 exposure site. But health authorities aren't necessarily alarmed that there will be an explosion of new cases. They did remind us today that we have had over 400 exposure sites in this current outbreak, and only a handful of those have returned transmission from person to person. We'll just have to wait and see what comes of this Woolworths transmission site. But here's what the Health Minister, Martin Foley, had to say on the outbreak so far.
We know that these set of incursions that have kicked off this wave, this cluster in Victoria, is not over, and we're running it down. But as the Moonee Valley case shows, as continued exposure sites show, this is really something that all Victorians have to work collectively together to run these last few cases down.
Well, I think with 5 lockdowns, Victorians are always concerned about another outbreak in the community. But from what health authorities had to say today, it seems unlikely that this new case is going to be the source of yet another outbreak. We will obviously have to wait and see what comes from the testing data around that Tier 1 exposure site, but it's a waiting game at this point. What they are likely to be more concerned about is what's happening across the borders. The Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton, did say today it's very likely, with the lockdown that's been declared in southeast Queensland, that zone will become a red zone for travel into Victoria. Now, he hasn't made that official yet. He was saying it's very likely, and we'll obviously bring you the latest on that if and when it does happen. Also, what health authorities have announced here today is that they're going to be trialling something new with the Pfizer vaccinations. At the moment, people are eligible to get their second dose of Pfizer at 3 weeks. The health department here have decided to push that out to 6 weeks, and that's so more people can get their first doses quicker. So that will take effect from Monday. So that'll be anybody who gets a first dose from Monday, they'll be eligible to get their second dose at 6 weeks instead of 3. And hopefully we'll be able to see more people able to get out there and take advantage of the limited supply of Pfizer.
The World Health Organisation says hard-won gains against coronavirus are at risk of being lost because of the fast-spreading Delta variant. COVID-19 infections have increased by 80% over the past 4 weeks in most regions around the world. The WHO Director General says the emergence of new variants and the failure to share vaccines has led to surges worldwide.
So far, 4 variants of concern have emerged, and there will be more as long as the virus continues to spread. The rise is also driven by increased social mixing and mobility, the inconsistent use of public health and social measures, and inequitable vaccine use. Hard-won gains are in jeopardy or being lost, and health systems in many countries are being overwhelmed.
As fires continue to rage across a number of western US states, President Joe Biden has called for more resources and assistance. The Dixie Fire, ripping through the state of California, has already burnt through nearly 100 hectares, while further north in Oregon, the Bootleg Fire has destroyed nearly 200 homes. The president has spoken with governors from affected states. He's concerned party divisions will prevent the protection of forests currently at risk.
We've got a big, complex wildfires burning across multiple areas, and despite the incredible, and this is not being solicitous, the incredible bravery and heroism of our firefighters, our resources are already being stretched to keep up. We need more help.
There is only one way to save these forests from the ravages of climate. Our own federal scientists have said that if we accept a 1 degree centigrade change, we'll have 600% increase in these fires on a regular basis. We won't recognize these forests as forests anymore unless we succeed with your vision.
And it's time to talk sport now with Meredith Sheehan. Meredith, a big morning in the pool in Tokyo.
Yes, it certainly has been. Australia has won a gold, a bronze and a silver in today's morning competition. Now, the gold came from Australian women's swimmer Kaylee McEwen, so she won home the gold in the women's 200-metre backstroke final. It was a great result for her, and not just her, also Emily Seebohm finishing in third. McKeown also won the 100 metres backstroke earlier in the week, so she's had a fantastic time in Tokyo. And Australia's Ariana Titmus, she finished with a silver in her event, which was the 800 metres freestyle final. She finished just behind her American rival Katie Ledecky. Now, the result leaves both of those swimmers with 2 individual gold medals, so a great result for her. And Australia's team has won the bronze in the mixed 4x100 metres medley relay. Emma McKeon, Isaac Stubley-Cook, Matthew Temple and Emma McKeon, they finished behind China, who finished with a silver, and Great Britain finished with a gold in that event. And we saw Emma McKeon swim in that medley, and she had just finished the 50 metres freestyle event. It was the semi-final for that, and she broke an Olympic record in that, and then she just backed it up with the medley there, so it was a great effort from her.
And Meredith, those team sports overnight, how did Australia perform?
Well, it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of team sports for the Australian teams. The best result came from the Australian women's soccer team. It was a bit of a thriller in that match, and at one point it looked like the Aussies weren't going to make it. So the Matildas, they were behind 2-1, and with less than a minute left of regular time remaining, that's how close it was, Sam Kerr levelled the scores, and substitute Mary Fowler, she then got a goal there, so that boosted our tally, and then Kerr doubled her tally with 2 goals. And now Australia will play either Japan or Sweden in the semi-final. And in tennis, we saw Ash Barty and John Peers. They will play for a bronze medal in the mixed doubles after a tight semi-final loss to Russia. And the gold medal defence of Australia's women's rugby sevens team has ended to Fiji following a 14-12 quarter-final loss. And it wasn't good for the Australian women's basketball team. They went down to China 76 points to 74.
And Meredith, that lockdown in Queensland, bad news, means a ban on professional sports this weekend.
Yes, so the Queensland State Government has announced a 3-day ban on professional sports. So that means AFL, NRL, they're out. There's nothing happening this weekend. So that has a big impact for NRL. There was 4 games scheduled for this weekend, so they will not be allowed to play. So the NRL themselves have actually relocated to the Sunshine Coast, so it could continue its competition. So they're now trying to work out what to do. It's most likely they will ask for an exemption or maybe look to move its competition elsewhere where there is no lockdown rules in place. Now the AFL, it's spread more across the country, but there was still 3 AFL games scheduled for this weekend, so it is impacting them as well. So big changes. The AFL has said that they will reschedule their games to a further date, but we're yet to hear from the NRL.
Thanks, Meredith. Meredith Sheehan reporting there. A record amount of ice has melted in Greenland. 22 gigatons of ice melted on Wednesday, enough to cover the US state of Florida in more than 5 centimetres of water. It's the 3rd biggest ice loss for Greenland in a single day since 1950. Scientists say the rapid melt is caused by warm air being trapped over the Arctic island by a change in atmospheric circulation patterns. Taking a look around the country, late rain expected in Melbourne with 19 degrees, a top of 24 in Sydney, 32 for Darwin. A trough and front approaching South Australia is producing rain, while cloud over parts of WA, Tasmania and Victoria is causing showers and storms. Tomorrow, that front will generate strong winds over the southeast. Onshore winds will also bring showers over the northeast tropics. To Queensland, and the chance of showers about the east coast, staying mostly sunny elsewhere with possible fog about the eastern districts and western Gulf country. Down to New South Wales, a shower or 2 over the southern slopes and ranges and far southern inland, falling as snow showers on the alpine peaks, dry and mostly sunny elsewhere. In Victoria, isolated showers increasing from the west, with possible storms about the southwest, western and central districts with snow above 1,700 metres. Staying wet in Tasmania with heavy rain and possible storms about the north and west. For South Australia, showers likely about the northwest pastoral and agricultural area with possible storms near the southern coasts. In WA, showers about the southwest with storms, gusty winds and possible small hail near coastal parts. Hot and sunny over the north, apart from the chance of morning fog across the western Daly, eastern Arnhem and northeast Carpentaria districts. Looking ahead to tomorrow's forecast for the capital cities, showers in Perth with 16 degrees, sunny in Brisbane with a top of 27, partly cloudy and 12 degrees for Hobart. A Mexican zoo has welcomed a new baby hippopotamus. At about a month old, the calf weighs a healthy 50 kilograms. It doesn't yet have a name and its sex is still not known. But to celebrate its birth, zookeepers have made a hippo-friendly cake of carrots, alfalfa sprouts and oatmeal, which was gobbled up by Mum Tammy. And that is the latest ABC News. Thanks very much for joining us. Stay with us. The vaccine is up next and I'll have more news in half an hour.